out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back, so let's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball podcast from the fans' perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. I'm your host, James Christopher. Thank you so much for jumping into what is our Animal House episode, because we are focused mostly on college baseball, collegiate summer league baseball. And I really just wanted to remember John Belushi, and this is my way of doing it by calling this the Animal House episode. No, I will not be recreating the zit joke because it grosses me out. We do have a packed episode for you today, and I do want to wish everybody, I hope you had a nice Labor Day weekend. I hope that you were able to have it off. I hope you were able to spend a little time with family. I know that a little bit different this year, like everything else, not really able to travel or really be around people. So I'm hoping that you at least were smart about it and still got some sort of a break from the madness. I'm actually wearing a shirt from the Rocket City Trash Pandas and the Rocky Mountain Vibes because Labor Day is also, in the minor league baseball world, generally the final day of the season. And one of the things that hit me was not only was it the final day of a season that never got played, but for some teams, and we'll talk a little bit about this episode going forward, but for some teams, it was their final day of existence and they don't know about that yet. And that to me is just tragic. It's sad. And so hopefully, maybe you can hop online and show some support for some of these teams, maybe a thought, a memory of a good time you had out there, because it's going to get real sporty for some of these organizations. And, those of you who follow baseball Twitter and you see this stuff and you're like, okay, well, that sucks. A team I've never heard of doesn't exist anymore. Remember that it's not a team you've never heard of. It's a team you've never heard of that has employees that bring a certain deal of economic vitality to its area, that brings a certain degree of break from the madness to that area. These aren't faceless organizations. They might not be, they might not be something you can connect with personally, but I bet you know somebody who can. So just keep those folks in your thoughts as we kind of move forward toward the end of September and the end of the big agreement with Major League Baseball, because I think it's going to become something very different than what any of us recognize. And so hopefully we can support these communities, these people, and these teams going forward. But we do have a great show for you. Will Geoghegan is here to talk a little bit about his amazing book about collegiate summer league baseball. The Keene Swamp Bats are here, and we got some really super cool gear from the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders. So don't miss it.
This just in, news from minor league baseball.
So we actually do have some breaking news, and we're excited to bring Jess from the Minor League Mind on to talk about it. But MiLB President Pat O'Connor has resigned from his position. Of note, a position that many believe won't be in existence anymore after the end of this month. Jess, overall, what does this mean for, I guess, as we read the tea leaves of possible contraction in the, again, as I'm referring to it so eloquently, the shotgun to the face of affiliated minor league baseball?
I mean, I think immediately it's whatever Saturday morning cartoon you want to relate it to. You can't fire me, I quit. That's the immediate thought is because there has been so much talk about the MiLB offices in Florida being absolved as a part of whatever is going to happen. And we still don't know what is going to happen with minor league baseball beyond this season, or at least, maybe the better name soon will be to just call it Major League Baseball Developmental System, which is clunky, but accurate. But no, if the office isn't going to exist and that's a goal of Major League Baseball, then for anybody, especially the person who not this is not any sort of indictment, but the head of the snake, the top of the totem pole, to get out in front of any news and be able to kind of dictate his legacy as the president of minor league baseball for the last 13 years, and really seeing such a good growth of the sport, or good growth of the organization, and make minor league baseball not just a laughingstock because of its minor league nature, but make it a laughingstock on purpose and get people to laugh at the jokes that minor league baseball is telling,
Right.
and not have minor league baseball be the butt of the joke. And has really legitimized it as a minor league and as an industry. So I think that's the immediate thought is, if the president is resigning, it's because even though he tried to make the negotiating committee one that was going to back him up, he ended up getting overruled by owners who didn't want that and wanted something in their own interest. And unfortunately, what they want happens to include Pat O'Connor not having a job as the president of minor league.
One of the things you noticed when we both got the press release was Pat O'Connor was a very accomplished minor league baseball president. It wasn't like he was a hack who simply couldn't get it done. Does looking at his accomplishments and looking at what you just said, does this mean that basically Major League Baseball has been negotiating in bad faith this whole time?
I don't know that they have been negotiating specifically in bad faith. I think their initial proposal, or whatever you want to call it, that was leaked last year, which may have been by Pat O'Connor, or it was leaked by somebody, who knows.
Yeah.
But whoever leaked it out really was able to indicate by leaking that Major League Baseball, at the very least, at that time, it was thought that was a extreme, that what they wanted to do was just a negotiating tactic, and that there would be some recession to the recession to the mean. They'd come back towards the middle, and they never did. And so I don't know necessarily that they're negotiating in bad faith. It may have just been that they were given too much of the benefit of the doubt of, they want to wipe out a quarter of affiliated teams and organizations in minor league baseball. But they're just saying that. They don't actually want to do that. And really it's, no, this is what they wanted to do. And now because of whatever other circumstances, they're going to be able to do it. And they're going to do it. And, maybe it's a shame on us, or shame on the individuals who were willing to think that they were just spitballing something crazy to try and better get something in the middle ground that would still benefit them, but not be quite as extreme. But no, this is the extreme that they wanted. And it seems like now there are no hurdles for them to clear to be able to get it.
Okay, so I guess as we wrap up then, is this how you expect this to go? Little bits of information leaking out? Is it a death by 1,000 cuts, or will we eventually get the shotgun to the face?
I think, I've never fired a shotgun, so I only have to go on what I've heard. But it's buckshot, right? There's lots of little bits.
Well, it depends. Sure. Yeah.
Well, whatever the one with the little bits, because you're talking to a guy who works in a minor league baseball press box.
Okay.
That's not my expertise, shall we say?
Okay.
But no, I think it's going to be the individual little bits. It may be some will be later arriving than others, but I think it is really going to be. We'll find out piece by piece, and I think there is more. There is going to be one big piece that's going to come at some point,
and that's the list of teams.
Well, it's funny because I think that's different depending on who you talk to. I think depending on who you talk to, if you talk to somebody who has skin in the game of their team might be eliminated from the purposes of an employee, a fan, a player, then yeah, that is the biggest bombshell to drop. But I think as you move up the ladder, the teams that are more assured of a place in minor league baseball next year, they just want to know what their affiliate's going to be,
right?
What sort of baselines they're going to have to maintain with their facilities, because Major League Baseball, I think, has said we're going to drop the hammer on anybody who is not going to keep their facilities up to par, or not going to do stuff that we like up to the standards that we want, which that's arbitrary, and they could just drop the hammer on anybody. But I think the teams who at least are going to survive this year and this round of cuts, for them, it's going to be, how do we keep from being on the, shall I say, editing room floor in the future?
To use a parlance. Well, we're going to keep following this. We'll have you back on as soon as more information comes, and I know we're going to have a minor league mind next week. But Jess, thanks so much for jumping on last minute to talk about this.
Absolutely. It's only 9:00 in the morning in the West. It's baseball hour everywhere.
Show me the merch. The best from the pro shop.
And we're back on Show Me the Merch as we continue our Animal House episode, our focus on college and collegiate summer league baseball. And we do have some great stuff from one of the teams we had on the show a few weeks ago, the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders. The Dock Spiders came on to talk a little bit about their championship, and we got some gear to follow up. And honestly, I really love the brand design. If your name is going to be as cool as the Dock Spiders, you really have a lot of pressure on yourselves to make a look as cool as the name. And honestly, they really pulled it off. So we'll start with the ball cap. And I got the one with just the large spider in the center. It's not a very popular baseball mascot. I guess I understand why, having seen like my wife's reaction when a spider comes in the kitchen. That's not sexist. That's the fact that she doesn't like spiders, okay? So before people get all like, oh, his wife doesn't like bugs. No, she doesn't, but there's plenty of stuff that she handles that I don't like. So if it keeps me from doing those things, like if there's a snake in the house, we'll call Jessica, who will then call someone else, but I'm definitely will be incapacitated. But no, she's not about the spiders. But I love the look. I love, again, it's sort of fun, but there's also a little menace to it, which I kind of appreciate. I really enjoyed that on the t-shirt as well. But again, one of the cool things is they threw some extra stuff in to kind of show off the brand, and I'm excited to share that with you because in part, they threw in some stuff to celebrate their 2018 Northwoods League Championship. Now, one I love is the championship ring. It's massive, as Jessica pointed out when it came in the mail. And it's funny. I really wish that she could just record me opening these things because it's kind of hilarious. I lose it. But she, as she pointed out, that the ring is massive. It's bigger than any of the ones I got from the Astros from 1917 or 05. But I love that they have the main logo on the front of it. And then on the side, you have the Northwoods League logo. And then on the other side, you have the DS and the number 1. They also threw in a couple of the koozies from the 2018 championship year, which again is super cool. And then one of the cool things, this has got to be something that I've never gotten before. It's a bobblehead, but it's a toothbrush holder. And this is Weaver, their mascot. And I love that they sort of cuted him up with cute little arms and legs because it's for kids. Even though his teeth is still a little menacing, but then he's got his little extra arms coming out there because he's a spider. But yeah, he's a little toothbrush holder. So I'll get a little toothbrush and put him in there to put him on the shelf. But that's some great stuff from the Dock Spiders. Again, I highly recommend you guys go and find them and check them out next season, but also get some gear. One of the cool things that I like about wearing minor league gear out is it's almost always a conversation starter. Either someone who just wants to know why you have a large spider on your hat, or why do you have a large, what looks to be stoned marshmallow on your hat. But also sometimes you might find someone who else is also an enthusiast who maybe doesn't know that team, but can tell you about other teams. So this level of baseball isn't the same as Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is essentially 30 insular communities that, because of media reporting or whatever, has gotten to the point where they really don't have a lot of productive communication between fans. Obviously, there are some instances, and I seek those out. If you're a fan of the Northwoods League or Collegiate Summer League Baseball or Indie Ball or the MiLB, you're more likely to run into people willing to share experiences and maybe help your fandom grow. So again, highly recommend checking that stuff out, and also highly recommend asking people what's up with the stone looking marshmallow on your hat, or why is there a raccoon flying in a trash can. You never know what kind of answers you're going to get.
Who's on first? the Let's Get To Local 9, brought to you by Zoomer Sport.
So we are super excited to welcome to our Who's On First segment, Kevin Watterson. He is the president of the Keene Swamp Bats. Swamp Bats, I sound like I'm from your neck of the woods with that one, Kevin. How's it going?
Going well as it can during this era of COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. And, I don't know how much you're following it, but we actually had breaking news right before you came on that the president of minor league baseball has resigned, which is throws everything a little bit into flux. But I wanted to start a little bit about you. How did you first get interested in the game of baseball and then end up being president for one of the most successful teams and one of the best collegiate wood bat leagues there is?
Interesting. I come from a fairly large blue-collar family. My dad coached some minor league baseball. When I was a kid, I actually was born in Canada when he was coaching up there. So we all were heavily involved in the game. And then I went to a small D2 school in Florida after graduating from Phillips Exeter Academy. And a guy named Bill Livesey, who's a legend in the country collegiately. I played for him for 4 years, and after I got out, but at that point, I got out at the same time Bill left to take over the Yankees. And he was the architect of those great Yankee teams. I mean, he signed Jeter and Williams and Posada, all those guys. So he's a special guy. He lives in Florida now and retired. So he talked me into doing some scouting for him early. So I did some bird dog scouting for the Yankees. And truthfully, wasn't what I thought it would be. Banging around in pastures throughout the state of Florida, trying to find the next whatever, wasn't what I had in mind. So, hey, I got out, got into private business. But I continued to coach, continued to build youth programs, sent a ton of guys into college baseball. And there came a time about 20 plus years ago when we said in Keene, New Hampshire, we need to do something. We need to raise the bar. So we went to all the pro scouts and they said, you really need to take a look at the New England Collegiate Baseball League. They're on fire. They put great players on the field, and it's something that we think you guys could do. So we applied, we got a franchise, the rest is history. And we have we've become, I want to call the yard marker today for the league. So we learn from the best, and many are learning from us today. But we continue. This is a passion for us. It's a labor of love.
And you guys are, before we kind of get into what it means to the community in New Hampshire around the ballpark, you guys are the New England Collegiate Baseball League is second really only the Cape Cod League as far as talent level. Can you speak to that, though? Because I think a lot of my listeners and my viewers who maybe grew up only going to major league games, there is really good baseball to be had in some of these collegiate summer league, some of these collegiate wood bat leagues.
It's a great point you make. The level of play on the field is unbelievable. And recently, the last 2 years, they've done studies of the leagues in the country. And as you point out, we have come out number 2 out of 80 leagues, out of 80, to the Cape. And the Cape, let's face it, the Cape's got 100 years tradition. I have nothing but good things to say about the Cape. Great league. But for us, our goal always was, baseball-wise, was to put pro-type talent on the field. So for me, where do you find pro-type talent? Hey, and for me, you find it in Florida, Texas, and California. And if you look at our rosters, I mean, really, I've had kids from Midland to TCU, you name it. They have great talent in Texas. And so if you look at our rosters, that's where our kids come from, because we want pro-type players. And unfortunately today, I always say this, most of the pro talent is at the D1 level. And that's not a knock on D2. I played there. It's not a knock on NAIA or JCs. But we have a heavy influence of D1 talent. And that's when our fans come to a game, I think it's why we draw 1,500 to 2,000 a night. because they recognize talent when they see it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about fans. And so I'll be completely transparent. When I started this show, I had only known about college summer leagues from the movie Summer Catch. And I grew up in Houston. I grew up at the Astrodome, fell in love with minor league baseball through my wife, who's a San Antonio girl, and then really kind of dove into collegiate wood bat last season and this season of the show. And what I've noticed is the connection to community seems to be stronger in these communities than it is for even affiliated minor league teams. Can you talk about how important the Swamp Bats are to that community?
Yeah, you make some interesting points, and it's interesting. I mean, our mantra is community wrapped in baseball, and we sell that every day. I will tell you, when we first started, we thought we were starting a baseball team because we were baseball people.
Right.
We had great success on the field, sending teams to World Series. So we thought, hey, well, let's start this baseball thing. And year one, year two, I mean, we were drawing seriously a couple thousand people. They were just out for us. And all of a sudden we realized, oh, there's a lot more going on in this community around us and what people's expectations are for us than just baseball. And it became real apparent early on that if we just focused on baseball, we would have drawn those few hundred. It would have whittled down to those few hundred diehard baseball fans, you know. But we really, hey, like everybody, we all live to create, and we wanted to create something special.
Yeah.
And so we're in the schools. We're doing reading programs. We're working with civic clubs. We're the number one event in this area over a 12-month period every year. I mean, we're a small town, 23,000 people. When you can draw 40,000 people over the course of 10 weeks, I mean, you're a serious player in that community, and we are.
No, absolutely. And speaking of community, as everybody, first I want to speak to your players, and I want to speak to your players through the lens of 2020. We all know that 2020 has been awful. I'm currently wearing my Trash Pandas Just Trash 2020 t-shirt. Really, just it's been awful. But talk about your players, because it's been a little tougher for them, because for so many of your players, this isn't just about summer baseball. It's about getting seen by a major league scout that maybe won't see them now.
I tell every fan, every club I speak to, to our family hosts, every one of our players is here for only one reason. It's the same reason. Every one of them wants to play pro baseball. Doesn't matter if it's the kid from Princeton University or the JC kid at Southwest Florida, or the guys that come from Vandy. The dream and the reason for being here is the same. They want to play pro ball. I mean, think about the sacrifice they make. They could be home. They could be eating mom's dinner. They could be with their girlfriend, but they are serious about their craft. And that's why they're here. So you ask about the impact, or you allude to it, of COVID on them this year. It's been devastating for many. When you are ready, this is your draft year, let's say, or you're getting ready knowing next year is your draft year, and you play 15 games, and all of a sudden you get a call from your summer league GM, someone like myself, we've shut it down. And you're looking around you saying, well, what was I doing? Or, where did my dream go? So, I feel for those kids, and I will be honest. Hey, listen, we might as well let Major League Baseball take a hit while we're at it here. I mean, when they move the draft from 40 rounds down to 5, on top of everything else that just hit these young men. So 5 rounds. I mean, we're talking about a lot of guys that have played for us. I mean, we've put 26 kids into the big leagues, and a lot of them were from rounds 15 to 30. And now, then, in theory, they would never have gotten a shot. So I say shame on the owners for making that decision. And we all know why they made it. One reason, about the money.
It's about the money. And we've been under the premise of this show that Rob Manfred actually hates baseball. He just as we alluded to earlier, the Pat O'Connor being resigning as MiLB president is because he knew his job was being eliminated. But that's, it dovetails into all of it. And, one of the things that I thought about was, just all the players now who then didn't make those first 5 rounds, who had to scramble to become undrafted free agents, knowing the money that they were going to make got drastically reduced, and they need that money to survive once they finally do enter the affiliated minor league system.
True. Jim, think about the impact that decision by MLB. Forget COVID. We can't criticize anybody on COVID, but MLB reducing to 5 rounds. How about the impact on amateur baseball in this country? The AAUs, the travels, the showcases, who now, most of those players were prospective MLB, at least talent to be looked at. Today, to me, I think in many ways, we're playing with fire here. Did they just devastate amateur youth baseball?
It feels much like it's all part of that same looking for short-term gains, not caring what they're going to do long-term to, I think as I think about y'all's community, I think about, and we're going to get to kind of a little bit more of that in a second, but I think about all the communities that were, and you're right, COVID is the thing. What I kind of feel like, so I'm a military veteran, so I take this pretty seriously. I feel like Manfred and the owners are a little similar to war criminals. They have taken a devastating stopping the country event and have used it to mine some of their own game, like pushing forward of cutting the draft to 5 rounds. They wanted to do that before COVID. They got the chance to do it now because no one was looking. And it really is, it could devastate immediately so many levels of the game, but it will also end up, I think, being long-term damaging to Major League Baseball 5-10 years from now.
Right. I agree. And let's face it also, colleges are going to take a hit. And we've already seen a handful of colleges doing away with programs.
Yep.
And baseball, baseball in the Southeast and maybe in Texas and a couple of other places is a profit-generating sport on campus, but not all around the country. So for those college presidents looking to cut costs, they're going to look at baseball. And if they're looking at baseball, given Title IX, softball's right in line to take the same hit.
Right.
And so, it's and not only is it about the kids. How about the 42 minor league franchises that MLB's cutting, and how about what that does to those communities? How about the jobs?
Yeah.
How about the jobs that represents over 42 communities?
And no, I think you're exactly right. And I think the other thing too is we're sitting here on September the 8th. We're recording this. It is, these teams still don't know whether they're on the list to go bye-bye or not. And therefore they won't know, do they start selling advertising for next year? Do they still sell season tickets? It really has thrown everything out of whack, including the idea that, again, 5-10 years from now, what future Major League Baseball fan from Binghamton, New York, for example, which is a team that was on the list, what future fan are you not going to have now? Because I don't think people throw on a Saturday baseball game on national TV if they don't go to minor league or collegiate summer league games and become fans. I don't think the MLB is the NFL where people can just discover it at a national level.
I would agree with that. Certainly we wept that on our level because we're so affordable, and we want everybody to be able to afford to come in. I think we whet the appetite of that average fan that I think you just alluded to, and they can come to our game every night, and maybe once a year they can go to Fenway Park,
right,
and with a family of 4, drop $300. Let's be honest, I could be light, but at least multiply that over and over and over. And that MLB owner, John Henry, is recognizing the profits.
No, I think that is the issue. I did want to go back to the Swamp Bats and kind of what you guys are dealing with, because, Major League Baseball can get away with shoving kind of a less quality product down our throats right now. I'm talking about rule changes, talking about the ramp up that means basically the Fayetteville Woodpeckers are playing for my beloved Astros. If I hear the word Major League Debut one more time, I might go lay in the middle of a highway. But you guys don't have a TV deal, so not having the ability to play games damages your ability to keep the gates open. But I know that you guys are working on a GoFundMe, so tell me a little bit about that and how can we help?
People say, well, Kevin, because we draw 1,500 to 2,000 to a game, so people think, we're nonprofit. We don't take any money, and all our money goes back into the facility. And most importantly, everything we do is about going first class. When we bring players in from the top elite programs in the country, we want to be proud of what we present to them. So we spare nothing when it comes to going first class. But that comes with a cost. And for that cost, we need a season. It's kind of like the grocery store down the street being open, but with no groceries on the shelves.
Right.
Our product was our season. Everything we did, from reading programs to camps, you name it, was about connecting to our season. Now, without a season, hey, we don't have any revenue. Yeah, we lost a few expenses, but they don't balance by any means.
Right.
So what we've done is we are running a GoFundMe program right now and for the next over many weeks. And it's really whatever anyone can afford. And we will use those monies. A couple of reasons. We're gonna continue to invest in the facility. We're gonna build a pavilion. We're gonna buy a Major League Baseball tarp that we need. We'll buy a brand new turtle. Those are things we need to spend money on and survive. So we encourage. We've done a mailer. Hey, we're getting nice response from our fan base, former players. But again, we need this money because in order to sustain us, not just now, but next summer. Because Jim, I worry about next summer. Suppose someone says you can only have 800 fans next year. Now, I hope that doesn't happen because our crowd is something to behold, and our players talk about our fans. But if that happens, that means that much less revenue from so many sources that we need to somehow cover. So these dollars are going to help. It's going to ensure us that we can have a season.
Well, again, we are going to continue to promote that. I think that once people hear about it, I think people are going to want to support because I think that there's a lot of people who love this brand of baseball. Full disclosure, Let's Get To has already made a contribution and we will continue to promote that on our social media. And we'll put a hot link on all this stuff. But Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show. We'll have you back on next year to preview the season. And we are going to come out to Keene to see you guys live next year. We're very excited.
We're looking forward to seeing you. Hey, give me some of those Texas studs.
You know what? I'll do all the recruiting for you. I sure can.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Tearing the cover off, the Baseball Book Club, brought to you by Marco Fine Arts.
So we're excited to welcome Let's Get To our Knocking the Cover Off segment. Will Geoghegan, the author of Summer Baseball Nation, a look at collegiate summer leagues. Will, how's it going, man?
Good. How about you, James?
I'm doing well. I've actually seen some collegiate summer league baseball all over the country a little bit this year, so it's been a little bit of a weird ride like everybody else. I wanted to start with you, though. How did you get into writing a book about college woodbat leagues?
Yeah, so the roots go way back to my family used to vacation on Cape Cod, and obviously the Cape Cod Baseball League is the premier summer collegiate league out there. So that was where it sort of hooked me as a fan. And then, from there, I got into sports writing, and I work in Rhode Island at a newspaper, and I covered the Ocean State Waves, Newport Gulls of the New England Collegiate League. So that was kind of another piece to it. And then I also started a website to cover the Cape League called Right Field Fog at rightfieldfog.com. So, that all kind of came together for me into really just wanting to sort of capture a little bit about the whole summer baseball picture. It's not just the Cape League. It's not just the Alaska League, which is another kind of one of the famous ones. So it was just sort of a cool opportunity and decided, had the idea to sort of look at the whole summer baseball landscape and do it through the course of these sort of 9 days, which is kind of how the book is structured. And so I pitched it around a little bit and got some interest, and we went from there.
What I like about the structure of the book, and now I'm going to get all discombobulated because this is how I roll. ADD is a thing, my friend. But yeah, it's 9 days. And what I like about it is you're intercutting gameplay, what's happening in any particular game, with the story behind the team and some of the struggles of the front office. How did you settle on that structure as a way to tell these different stories?
Yeah, so it seemed that, that wasn't the original idea. Was just do something on the whole picture, and then it that sort of seemed unwieldy. Like I knew where I wanted to, some of the places I wanted to go, some of the big games, some of the cool places and successful teams, but it was sort of like how do you weave all that together? And then it just sort of came to me one day of kind of just following a season along, just picking 9, these sort of 9 random days and different places each day to kind of capture, the whole picture. And I, hopefully it kind of did that.
Yeah, no, it's very, very engrossing. And one of the things, because I'm a filmmaker by trade, so I understand that when you picked 9, it meant you didn't pick 100 or whatever it was. So how did you settle on the 9 clubs that you talked about?
Yeah, so the Cape League was always going to be, part of the puzzle, and in particular the Katuitt Kettleers, the team in the Cape League. Just had some connections with them, and they're also the most storied franchise in the league based on how many championships they've won and some of the cool things.
The movie Summer Catch would disagree.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Jessica Biel, so yeah.
Yep, Freddie Prinz. I mean, in the Chatham A's, they got some cachet.
They do.
Yep. So the Cape League was an obvious one, and then the Newport Gulls, the New England League, which is kind of right around the corner from me. Really successful team, and then some of the ones really jumped out in terms of the event, and that's the Midnight Sun game in Alaska, which is just like a bucket list item for baseball fans, and then the home run derby at the Harbor in the Northwoods League, where they actually hit home runs from a pier on Lake Michigan into Lake Michigan, which was
that was
awesome.
A fun chapter. Yeah, the home run derby was a fun chapter for me because last season for Corpus Christi they play as the Blue Ghosts, and off the deck of the Lexington in Corpus Christi they do the same thing, and I thought this is such a baseball. It's like different ideas, but it's the same idea, and I love everything. Like, how far can we hit a ball into the water? I don't care what the water is. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. One of the things, like, it's interesting that we connected because it's not a level of baseball that I honestly knew very much about until last season when the show started. We had a few teams on, and then this season they were the only ones really that were playing.
Right.
With where baseball's going with contraction of minor leagues, do you see actually it getting more widespread, this sort of collegiate summer league look?
I think that's certainly a possibility. I mean, you already see that in places like Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they had the home run derby at the Harbor. That was a place that had a minor league team and couldn't really support like the current what you need to have a minor league team with corporate sponsors and luxury boxes and all that kind of stuff. And summer baseball has been a huge hit there. So you see that already in places like that. I think the one thing that could be a little tricky about it is if Major League Baseball is changing things so much that they're sort of creating their own kind of like summer collegiate landscape, which they might want to do. If you're looking at like the draft changing dates and that throws a kink in how the Cape League is doing. So it could, I think there's sort of two sides to that, but if all things are equal, then I think absolutely summer ball could fill a hole in some of these communities.
One of the things I find interesting is, I'm a Texan and we kind of do everything bigger and better than everyone else. Just ask a Texan and they'll tell you. But collegiate baseball is not a thing here. Like Round Rock played one season in the TCL this year because of 2020. What is it about, you think, certain regions of the country that make it popular, like New England, like the Northwoods, like Alaska, and then not?
Yeah,
Texas
it's a good question.
Here?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the way it developed. In some cases, you look at like the Cape League in Alaska, and that was, early on, they were getting a lot of kids from like Florida and California who are going north, with the weather kind of to play baseball in the summer. So I think that's part of it, is just that it has those deeper roots. And then in some cases, it's also just, it's very conducive to small towns and sort of smaller communities that may just sort of embrace this kind of thing.
In your travels, I wanted to ask you about fan connection, because that's what this show is about. This is the thing. How important are these clubs to the areas in which they play, as far as like the fan culture goes?
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of it. The bedrock of a lot of it is the host family setup, where these kids are staying with people, families in the community, and they're in a spare bedroom and they're in the basement. And those families have, 10-year-old boy and a little girl, and they go to all the games and they follow these careers. So that part of it just guarantees a connection. And then you get a lot of regulars at these games who, are sitting in the same spot every time. It's at the very least cheap, and in some places totally free. And it's just, it's baseball on summer nights, which is, I think, what a lot of people want to do. So that fan connection is huge. And you see these teams also, they make a point to be out in the community and doing reading programs at elementary schools and baseball camps and things like that. And that, for them, it's part marketing, but it's also just to be part of the community and to sort of achieve that mission as well.
As you're watching the landscape then, and the show, our show has been very involved in, baseball is going down some really weird paths. The pandemic didn't help it. The future of the game at this level, do you think it's bright? Do you think that it's also going to be facing sort of its own kind of drastic changes?
I think there is some uncertainty there, especially with some of the leagues that had to cancel, that felt like they had to cancel this year. And, what happens for next summer, and can they survive another summer without playing if it comes to that, or do they just, try to give it a go? And yeah, so that, with the pandemic, that's certainly part of it. And then like we were talking about earlier with some of the issues with what Major League Baseball is going to do, everything comes down from the top, and, how they want to, how Major League Baseball wants to sort of structure the amateur system. If they want to get their hands into that a little bit more than just providing funding for some of the leagues, then that could change things too. But I think that the future is bright, and just in terms of kids wanting the opportunity to play, and and fans loving it. Some of these teams are drawing huge crowds, bigger than some minor league teams, and people really like the brand of baseball if they know about it. So I do think the future can be bright, and hopefully it is.
We had the normal Corn Belters on a lot this year, and they went from I think the Frontier League to the Prospect League, I think. And they actually, even with the pandemic, saw an increase in crowd as they changed to this type of baseball. So it does, to your point, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an opportunity there for teams that do it right, and they can bring people in.
So as you were working on the book, were there any teams, like what clubs almost made your cut, and were just like, which ones did you have to kind of leave on the cutting room floor, or the decision-making floor, as they say?
Yeah. So everywhere I went ultimately made the book. I, kind of had really settled on those nines, but there were a lot that I would have loved to go to. It's 9 was a good structure. It would have been too big with anything else, but I would have loved to do 99 teams. Just to see more of it. But yeah, a couple that stick out, the Madison Mallards in the Northwoods League, they're owned by the same ownership group that runs the Kenosha Kingfish, and the Home Run Derby was too good to pass up for the book. That had to be in, but the initial plan for the Northwoods League was to catch up with the Madison Mallards, who lead the nation in attendance every year. So they really stuck out. And then the St. Joe Mustangs in the Mink League in the Midwest, that proved to be a little bit tricky travel-wise. It made a little more sense to go down the East Coast for a couple of those teams, but they're another team that does really well and has great fan support.
One of the things that's fun about an experiment like this, you obviously go into it with a lot of knowledge. What did you sort of learn or new appreciation did you get coming out of it that maybe you didn't have going in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just, hearing from the players and all their individual journeys. And, I would have liked to even do more of that with some of these guys, because it's, every player has a story of how they got to that point. And you look at it, and there's a lot of summer teams everywhere and a lot of guys playing college baseball, but still, guys who are playing college baseball are the best, 10% of baseball players in their age group. So these guys are really, something special, even at some of the guys who are playing D3 college baseball, like that's still really good baseball. So just hearing from them and kind of talking to them about their journeys and how they got to where they were and their goals, that was pretty cool.
So will there be a sequel then? That's what I want to know. Like, will there be more? Have you thought about like doing something else with baseball in another book or?
Yeah, I have some ideas. I don't know if we'll do a straight sequel. I do want to, do some updates along the way on some of these guys who are in the book, because most of them are still sort of at the minor league level now, on their way up. So that would be cool. And I'd love to do some stuff, online with other summer league teams and kind of make it an annual thing to hit some more teams and sort of write about them in the same style that the book was written, and maybe get up to that 99 that I was talking about.
Well, you've actually changed our summer next year. So there's a couple teams that we like. I think Jessica and I are going to try to do the Midnight Sun game, and we're going to go to the Newport Knolls. We're going to work that into going to Martha's Vineyard at the same time. So yeah, thank you for that. It'll be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll try to catch up with you while we're up there.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
All right, so he is Will Geoghegan. He is the author of Summer Baseball Nation. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And where can people find the book?
So you can check it out on Amazon, the University of Nebraska Press website. There's also a website called bookshop.org where sales benefit local bookstores, which is a good thing to do at this time. So pretty much anywhere you want to look, you can find it.
We will find the links. We'll have the links in the description of the podcast. Thanks so much for being on Let's Get To.
Thanks, James.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap us up for this episode of Let's Get To. And again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank everybody for jumping on. And I do want to remind everybody about the Keene Swamp Bats and their GoFundMe. I know that everybody's stretched a little tight right now. I know that 2020 has not been ideal for anyone. As we were getting off, Kevin said even $5 helps. And I think that you'll also feel pretty good if you can take just a little bit to help an organization that really is helping a small town, that's helping this area. It's helping young ball players find their dreams. And I know for some people that doesn't hold a lot of water, but hopefully audiences of this show recognize just how important that is. We made a contribution. I hope other people follow suit, because I think it's something we can all get behind. They're not getting rich off this stuff. And so hopefully everybody will pitch in. And if you can't, maybe help share it. Whatever we can do to kind of help this organization survive into 2021, so that way they can keep bringing baseball to Keene, New Hampshire, keep helping young college players get a little bit extra exposure, so that way they can make their dreams come true. Hopefully that's something we can all get behind. That is our show. We are wrapping it up, but we are dropping it today on September the 9th, which is my 20-year wedding anniversary. Last week, we celebrated the date anniversary. We're finishing anniversary week, because that's how I do it, y'all. I do it big with dinner at Carve in Austin. If you haven't been to Carve, please do yourself a favor and get out there. But I do want to say, usually I'll say stay safe, stay sane, let's get to, but I'm going to do a little different today. I'm going to send this one directly out to my wife, who is the love of my life. She is my light. She is absolutely the person that I need to navigate the world, and the person that makes the world spin for me. She really is all of those things. So to you, I say, Jessica, and Jessica alone, stay safe, stay sane. Please don't stop loving me. and let's get 20 more years.